It's pretty funny.
Forrest, welcome back, mate. It is good to have you here. The reason why, all right, for everyone listening, I was going to do this earlier, but we'll do it now. I was going to do this offline, but Forrest was one of the OGs on the podcast. I think you were episode 5 or 7. And someone sent it to me, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, and was like, this episode is incredible. And I went back and listened to it. And then I called Forrest after that and I was like, mate, we caught up. And then I realized how poor or how young I was in my podcast journey. You spoke so well and it was an incredible episode. But myself, on the other hand, I think I've grown a lot since then. So I wanted to have you back on, and a lot's changed in your world since then. I've been over and visited you. You've been over here and visited us. So
yep,
there's some crazy stories in between. But how you going, mate? Obviously, you're in LA at the moment, and the pandemic.
I'm in the epicenter of the pandemic as we speak. It's awesome.
It's awesome. What's it like for you over there? Because for us over here in Brisbane, mate, obviously I understand that people have got their own versions of events, but we're very fortunate that life feels like it's back to normal here. So
it feels about the opposite of that here. It feels like nothing has been normal since it started. And there's a massive division between ways of thinking. And I think that that's been the hardest thing to get your head around. There's a lot of separation between thought and people. And I think that when it comes to sorting something like this out, or anything, it's a classic thing. Like, you can't win a championship as one player. Doesn't matter how good you are. One player facing 20 people who are not as good as you, but in a group, they're 20 people. You're going to get your ass kicked. Yeah. Doesn't matter if you're the star. And I think that that's happening here right now, is that you need people to come together. I mean, I can't solve the world's problems. I'm not that powerful. I don't have that, but in my little world, looking at it objectively, I'm trying to go, hey, we need to come back together, because it's weird. It's very weird. And there's so many people with opposing thoughts, and everyone's fighting. So it's like, some guys like, wear a mask. Some guys like, screw your mask. Some person's like, it's 5G. It's going to kill you. Someone's like, it's just a cell phone tower, man. Like, it's, it's wild. And it's gotten worse since it all started. And naturally so. I think you coop people up for long enough, you go a little stir crazy.
It shows how individual people are, and like how people can cling to an idea and really rally behind it, regardless of how much research they may or may not do behind what the fuck's actually going on. And people will just fight to the death over it.
Yeah, it's like anybody. You can fight about anything. You can religion, politics, money, friendship, anything. But fighting doesn't help anybody understand anybody. Like, when was the last time someone came and yelled at you and said, "This is my viewpoint"? You were like, "Wow, that really caught me. I think I'm going to change my mind." Never. None in history. Like, it's never worked. Like, the only time it's worked is when someone is like pointing a gun at you. And in that moment you go, do I want to live really? Or do I want to is this the hill I want to die on, so to speak? And you go, well, I might lie right now and agree with you.
I might
or different personality types. This is something I've learned, something that's changed my life in the course of this past couple of years, learning about my personality type. So I went and sat with a therapist. I got broken up with. My heart was smashed. You guys saw me as I was going through it. It was devastating. Heartbreak is awful.
Oh, yeah.
But with this, in the same breath, it's one of the most brilliant things, because you spend all this time building up who you are, and then all of a sudden you get toppled. And it doesn't matter how strong you thought you were, or how amazing you thought you were. Heartache just it's like it breaks you at your foundation, and it forces you. Hopefully, sometimes I think it does the opposite, but in my case, rather, it forced me to deep dive and go, okay, I'm the villain of someone else's story as much as they're the villain of mine. But in this case, I'm the villain of theirs. How do I just look at myself? So there's this giant mirror that gets put in front of you, and you go, okay, like, I got to rebuild now. What do I want it to look like? Because the last one, I didn't build right, I guess. It didn't hold me structurally, and it fell apart. So how do I grow into the person that I want to be? And so learning about these character types. So I learned about this, a therapist. I sat with a therapist. I was like, hey, like, help me kind of decipher what's going on in my mind here because I'm falling apart. And she's like, check your Enneagram. And I'm like, what's an Enneagram? That sounds like, freaking Jupiter of the Saturn being in the same line. I'm like, I'm not into that. She goes, no, this is a bit different. And I try and be open. I joke around, all kidding aside though. I'm like, okay, what is it? So I do this thing, the Enneagram. I think it's called the RHETI test, RHETI test. It's 144 questions. You answer it as honestly as you can. And at the end, it assigns you a number between 1 and 9. And it turns out that I'm an Enneagram 8, which stands for a challenger. So I will challenge people and I will challenge their way of thinking. That's my whole thing. But my girlfriend at the time was the opposite. She was the antithesis to a number 8, which was a number 9. Now, don't let the numbers confuse you, even though they're closely related in the sense of one after the other. They are far and polar opposites. Yeah, so she was a peacemaker. And so when you start to think about this, it changes the way you build your building up. Because one, it allows you to acknowledge what your building is, so not to get in trouble with what you're inviting into your space. You get to walk around with this knowledge going, hey, I'm going to challenge you. And there's a healthy way of doing it and a very unhealthy way of doing it. And all the work I'm doing as a person is helping me understand how to do it in a healthy way, because that's my disposition. It's my character. And a number 9 is this peacemaker who doesn't want to be challenged. In fact, will run away rather from confrontation as fast as they can. And so when they can acknowledge that and go, I'm a peacemaker. I don't want to argue. I don't want to challenge anybody. When you know this, you can actually speak. Now you've given yourself almost like the Google Translate or iTranslate. You have now this massive infrastructure to go, oh, we're speaking differently. Let's talk about it through our different languages, because the intention as humans is to connect. I just want to connect with you. I don't want to get mad. You don't want to get mad. I don't want to be aggressive and you don't want to be passive. We all want to be, understood. There we go. That's the middle ground. You just want to be heard, understood, valued, appreciated, with the ability to move on. So you take all of that and you put it into kind of what's going on in the world. This is where we are. So understanding yourself and your viewpoint may help you understand other people's viewpoints as well. That's what I'm getting at. That was a long-winded way of saying that.
Mate, it was
welcome back, people. 2020. The podcast you never knew you needed.
Until you got it.
Until you got it. Everyone's going to listen to us and go do their Enneagrams and go, wow, that makes sense.
I hope so. I think everyone should do it, because it's one, and I would imagine, I don't want to assume, but I would say a lot of people have experienced that heartbreak, and it's horrible, and you can deal with it in various ways, right? Previously, I used to deal with it with putting my head in the sand with addiction of some form, and there was no real positive growth from it. I would just move on to the next one, and the same sort of bad structures and when you say you look in the mirror, all the foundations that I had that weren't really positive would go into the next relationship, and the same thing would happen. And I'd always be like, why do I keep getting the duds, rather than standing in front of the mirror, which is one of the hardest things to do, and just go, okay, well, what do I need to acknowledge about myself? What can I improve upon? And also, as you said, who do I want to become, or how do I want to become? And that's when you get to start putting that work in from that part. And that can be daunting, but it can also be exciting, because you're choosing.
Well, what's your choice? What choice do you have? You either figure your shit out or don't. Either change the outcome of what you're going to do or don't. You have two choices. You can dwell on things and you can cry about it. And sometimes that's important too. Sometimes that has its place in time. But then once that's done, what do you want to do? And I don't think that it needs to be constant progression. I think that almost hinders us in a way too. So not to get too far away or too far removed from feeling the emotion. Heartbreak sucks. So feel it. Feel it like as much as you need to feel it in order to get through it. But once you've gotten the feelings out, then what do you want to do? So instead of like self-loathing and self-pity and all this stuff, it's just like, all right, this is where I'm at. Like, own the fact that maybe you sucked. That was one of the things about my relationship. I I was looking at my relationship like it was a pyramid, and everything that, or rather life, I looked at life like it was a pyramid, and my relationship was at the bottom. It was the foundation. And so I was like, oh, it's safe. So I don't need to tend to it. And what ended up being the top of my pyramid every day was kind of the shit that life was throwing at me. Oh, I got a management thing here. I got a song thing here. I've got, a work thing here. And so like all that stuff was constantly only my top of my pyramid was being tended to, so to speak, because I thought I was really built up. But you don't realize is that it's kind of the same way of building. Like we've used this analogy, so it's like this building, if you're only tending to the top floor and shit is happening in your life, like earthquakes and whatnot are happening, you have to go check the basement once in a while. You have to check the structure of your foundation, because a crack starts as a crack, but then it turns into a break. And then the weight of all the stuff you're dealing with at the top is now building and causing a shift in your life. And you have no clue it's happening. You only figure it out once the building starts to topple on top of itself. And then you're screwed. So you got to dive in and go, okay, what can I do to solve this? You have to look at your life and start figuring it out, and then do the clean sweep every now and then. It's kind of like your spring cleaning. So like, for instance, my girlfriend, I have a wonderful relationship right now, and I'm super, super thrilled and happy. But the thing that's worked for us, there's a few things that have really kind of helped us out. One of the things is when we first started dating, like within the first month, and we're like, okay, we like each other. And then we decided that we're going to be boyfriend and girlfriend. And, I did this like cheesy, I actually asked her out. I was like, hey, do you want to be my girlfriend? Yeah. One of the things that we said that we would do was that every couple months we would have a day where we just checked in with each other. A kind of no limit, like say what you want to say in a safe place, and it's like, she could come to me, and these aren't real cases, but real scenarios rather, but like she could come to me and say, hey, the last 2 months, I've just noticed that you're on your phone a lot more, and I would like a little bit of that time. And instead of saying something so vague, it would be, I would like, let's say 10% of that time back. And here's like a way of action. So maybe we put our phones down on Wednesday night, and Wednesday night is our night specifically. Can we commit to that? And then instead of having this like expectation over one another where it's like, shit, you don't do this, and you're building resent over this time, instead we just acknowledge it and go, yeah, as a partner, I would love to do that for you. So she's able to have a safe place to call that out and ask of me. And it's a safe place for me to say yes and or no. But if I'm coming to the table with a no, I better have a way of matching the request. So no, I can't do Wednesdays. I can do Tuesdays. No, I can't do Wednesdays every week. I can do Wednesdays every second week. And that's part of the give and give of a relationship. It's not give and take. It's give and give. Anyway, I get fired up about it because it's super, super exciting to be able to commit and then work with somebody and doing that cleanup and checking in on kind of all systems to keep it going. And that way you feel loved, you feel valid, you feel heard, you feel accepted, you feel appreciated, you feel all these good things instead of feeling resentful and pissed off and avoided. And I'm like, man, it just comes down to communication, because the only difference between my ex and my new great relationship was that
communication,
the ability to vocalize and be heard.
I love it. It really opened my eyes when I read the 5 Love Languages. Have you ever read that?
Of course, Gary Chapman, great book, man.
Fantastic book. But it shows you that obviously we're all communicating on different levels, and we all have different values, wants, and needs, but we can work together should we choose to. And the reason for me, I just finished meditating before we got on this. I spend so much time, probably 10 to 15 minutes a day doing self-reflection, working out what's working well for me, what's not, what I want to change, what I need to communicate things, or what areas I need to improve communication on, and what's, how I want to feel valued, heard, and understood, and how I can go about doing that. Because ultimately it falls back on us. Even if it is, you look at a relationship and it takes 2 to tango, you still have to learn to communicate in a way that they're going to understand and they're going to appreciate. Rather, as the example before, you can't just go in and go, why the fuck aren't you listening to me? Like, as if anyone's going to listen to you or want to care what you say at that point in time.
Yeah, it works all the time. That's exactly what you should do in a relationship.
Yeah. So it's understanding that, one, I need to check in with myself around what's working well in my life, what I want to improve, but also how can I improve the communication or the ways of communication that I'm currently using? Why is it not working? what can I, essentially accepting responsibility for everything. And then, you know, you have to have boundaries in place. And I see this all the time in relationships where generally women just give so much more to men, and men are, once again, this is generalizing, but men are poor communicators. They are in their head too much. And women, you know, they might cheat, they might lie, they might have destructive habits, but they still hang around because they think they can fix them.
It's funny because I've experienced the opposite. Maybe it's because you're in Australia, and so things are just opposite.
On the other side of the world. Yeah, I think that's
I've seen it to be the opposite. I mean, I think over time you start to realize that it's just a personality disposition, that like somebody does it one particular way. I find that there are people that can communicate and people that can't, and then it kind of bypasses gender at that point.
Yeah,
it's like somebody who builds up resent and can't communicate their feelings, and then they have to enact. You know, but in the same breath, though, there are people who are hurt, and that's their way of acting out. Because, you know, if somebody cheats or somebody does it, it's acting out, and it could be part of a disorder. It could be bipolar disorder. That's one of the symptoms of that. It could be just not being seen, validated, or heard. But your heart, love is a different thing. You know, but so it's interesting that you say that, because I've experienced the opposite end of that, where men that I've known have stayed with things and just been like, all right, I'm here because it's classic, I'll fix things.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot more women who are like, I just want to be freaking heard, man.
Yeah. 100%. No, well, that's still the same way of looking at it. It's I just threw my chain of thought then, because I was trying to flip.
Sorry, I really just railroaded you on that.
No, I apologize. You're fine, mate. You're fine. We'll work with this. But it does work both ways, and that's why it's a generalization. It's not an actual fact, but it happens in all ways, shape, or form. I've been on both sides of the fence where I've tried to fix everything and I've hurt myself in the process. And where I was going with that was, we need to set healthy boundaries for ourselves, because you can, I 100% believe in, you know, working to improve a relationship or working to improve anything in your life, right? Any relationship in your life. It doesn't just have to be intimate, but there also has to come a moment in time where you have a boundary where it's like, all right, this is too much. Now I need to start looking after myself, or I need to start progressing my life forward. Because if you spend 20 years working on the same thing and there's no progress, is that smart? I know that's the individual's choice, but for me personally, probably not. You know, I've got things that I want to achieve in my life. I've got things that I want to experience in my life. Therefore, I have to make sure I'm putting myself in the right environment, in the right situations to experience that. I can't keep blaming it on the person that's holding on to you, or you're holding on to, as to why things aren't going well in your life. That's not taking responsibility.
Yeah, it's kind of, in a way, it's an interesting codependency on people and situations.
100%.
Instead of looking at something to complement you, you're looking for something to complete you. I think that's something a lot of people think, even in progression. It's progressing can sometimes be a symptom of something else as well, because sometimes it can be an extreme. I think that really it comes down to the word balance. Everything is about finding a balance, and it's not always going to be 50-50. But if it's 90-10 for a moment, then it has to switch to 90-10 in favor in another moment, or at least get close to that, so we can all feel what we need to feel. You know, progression can sometimes be a symptom, again, of loss, and so we are trying to fill a void. Like, for instance, you know, like, ask you know, the Shepherd family, or, you know, or anybody who does what we do. I don't feel any different now. Like, we were just talking before, like, I was looking at stats, and my song is being played 300 and, you know, I can't even remember the number now. It's an astounding number. Like, let's say 340,000 times in the last 24 hours alone. And it's like, that's crazy, but it doesn't make me feel any different than the time I had 1,000 plays in a day. I was pretty excited about that. You know, there's a limit to how much the progression, how long the progression feels like it's progression, because now it's set the bar higher. So next time I have a song that comes out, I might be very disappointed if it doesn't have 340,000 plays in an hour, or in a day rather. So it's like trying to remember that what is it that you're trying to do, and identifying that goal, and remembering that it's a journey. It's like weight loss. If you think that you're going to lose 100 pounds, that's going to solve your problems, you miss the point. It's not. What's going to happen is you're going to have perceptual and visual adaptation. You're going to lose the 100 pounds. And I can promise you this because I've done it and I've seen it. You're going to lose it. It's going to be cool for about 10 minutes. And then you're not going to think that you look the same. You're not going to look good enough. And you get lost in progress. And so then you're like, oh, I need to lose more. Oh, I need to lose more. Or I need to gain more muscle. It's always going to be like that. And then you're not going to accept yourself or love yourself. So the whole thing I'm trying to get at is it's less about progress and more just about this journey. It's about stopping and trying to take time to breathe in the manifestation or breathe in the journey and go, okay, we're doing it. You know, it's like I talk to a lot of young artists and they're like, how do you do this? And how do you get there? And I'm like, stop, man. Like you got to enjoy. It's in your best interest to enjoy it. Like if you think that playing a stadium is going to change your life and make you feel a certain way, it might for all of 10 seconds. But when you're going to think back, let me even change this up for anybody out there. Think of your favorite vacation. Think of your favorite moment. And I bet you it's not going to come in this verbiage. You're not going to look at me in the eyes and go, mate, let me tell you about this trip. It was perfect. We went to the perfect restaurant and had the perfect waiter and waitress and had the perfect meal. And there was a perfect sunset. And then I shared the perfect kiss in the perfect moment and woke up. That would be the shittiest story in the history of time. No, you're going to tell me, you're going to be like, dude, we went to catch our plane. And you know what? We were late because we had this crazy taxi driver and like the guy was nuts. And, you know, but then we got there late, but then we ran to the kiosk and, oh man, Amy forgot her passport. So we had to rush to get that. And then it's like the amazing story is going to come with all these like micro triumphs. And then you're going to resolve it with how you know, at the end, here's this anecdote of like, man, we realized that that was the trip.
That's life.
Like the journey is in the shit. It's not in the success. A weight loss story isn't look at me, I'm fit. It goes, look at me, I was fat. You know, a musician's triumph of like, it isn't like, look, I have the Grammy. It goes, look, I made it from where I was. So we don't usually tell the success through the lens of the success itself. We tell it through the failure of the past. That's the beauty of progress. So when it helps me sometimes to think about it that way, to go, shit, yeah, I'm in it. It's been hard. It's been a really tough time. Like I'm having a tough time. Wow. I'll talk about this. It's going to be the exciting part of my story later on. It sucks right now, but it's cool that it's happening.
It's fascinating, man. I was talking with Jack last night, and when we were in the elevator, I was like, and I haven't thought about this. Like I haven't had a moment. I'll do that today. I'm going to go on for a surf, but I've been so driven with my business to create success and to do what I believe is reaching potential and, you know, all of that sort of stuff, because I left that behind with sport. So whenever I think about the sport that I've wasted, I'm like, I'm never going to get that back because I'm not getting younger. Like that's done. And every time I think about it, it's fucking heartbreaking because like, what, you know, hindsight's a beautiful thing. So every moment that I have with everything that I've got now, I'm like, I can nail this should I choose to make a few sacrifices and put in hard work. But also with that mindset, it's become so process orientated. I avoid so many things as a result of that because I'm like, nah, can't even put myself in that situation because the result is dependent upon me getting these processes done. And I've become such a rigid, not timid is definitely not the fucking word of choice there.
I mean, rigid and
it's
fixed.
Yeah. It's taken the flow out of life. Like, it's almost like I have to teach myself to, like, I'm going for a surf today, like to switch off. So when we first started Christmas holidays, sitting there being like, I have nothing to do. I have nothing planned to do. I can't do that. I'm freaking out. But it's also something that I need to learn because I need to learn to have both in my life. I need to learn how to balance. As you said earlier, it's like, how do you balance or dance with both of them?
Well, you have to enjoy the successes. Otherwise, what are they?
Well, exactly.
Here's a quick story, and I'm going to do an awful job paraphrasing it, but you'll get the point of it. I was talking to a friend of mine back home, and unfortunately, his father was passing away. His father was really sick, and he was driving his father to the hospital. And He knew that his father was going to die. So this was like, what an interesting feeling it must have been, like driving your parent. Oh, sorry, my phone's dying. Driving your parent to the hospital to pass away. And so here's my friend, and he's like super rigid in this moment. And he's like, I have to get to the hospital. So he gets to the hospital, finds the parking lot, and his dad's like, park over there, like at the other end of the parking lot. He's like, Dad, I gotta park close to the hospital. I gotta get you into the hospital. And his dad's like dying. He's like, bring me to the other end of the parking lot. So he's reluctant, but he does it. He brings his dad to the end of the parking lot. And so now he's got his dad who's old and frail. And again, his dad is going to die. And to anyone listening, this isn't a happy story. It doesn't end like he comes back to life. He's passing away. And so nevertheless, so he's there. And again, I'm paraphrasing. I'm trying to remember best I can to the full extent of the situation. So if my friends watch this, I'm sorry if I get any of these details wrong, but the sentiment of what I experienced when he was telling me this is very accurate. And so his dad is there now. He's going to walk his dad into the hospital doors. And his dad's like, take me over to that tree. And my buddy's like, what the do you want to go to that tree for? His dad's like, take me to the tree. And so my friend is like kind of frustrated. Like, we have to go to that. Like, he's so meticulously calculated in his decisions of what he needs to do as far as his process is concerned, that he's not listening to what his dad's asking. And so anyway, he reluctantly agrees, brings his dad to this tree. And his dad, I think he like grabs a flower or is looking at a branch or something. And it goes, what a fucking ugly tree. And then he walks his dad into the hospital. His dad dies. Like, like if that doesn't tell you something about life,
the experiences of what it is. Well, I think about that when I watch my grandfather at the moment. He's 94, and we've been taking him out of the home all the time. And you just sit there and watch him looking out the window, and you think about what a life he's had. And I asked him. I always try to get one piece of advice every time I'm catching up with him. And there was one, I've podcasted a few of them actually, which I'll release at one point, but it's just like, do more with your life. Like, cause he was on the farm for a lot of his life, and granted that's what you did in that moment in time, but it's also like life's there to be lived. And it's actually, there's a really good book for anyone who hasn't listened to it or read it. It's called Dianetics. Have you heard of it? Mate, it's phenomenal. So I'm listening to it at the moment on Audible. Little plug.
This is like the Scientology Dianetics?
I'm not. It sounds more like NLP, but maybe it is. It's the modern science of mental health, is what it's by Ron Hubbard. Anyway.
Yeah, that's L. Ron Hubbard is the king of Scientology.
Oh right. Oh fuck. Anyway, let's take that out of it and let's carry on with the story. But there was one thing when I was walking yesterday. I was walking over to from Kangaroo Point, our place where you've stayed, over to New Farm, and there was a part where it's just like, how often have you just stopped taking? You start taking things for granted. It's like, why don't you look at your partner the same way you did when you first met? And it's because you keep getting these different lenses from life that influence how you see the present. It's like, you look at the blue sky right now, or the gray on the bridge. It wasn't saying this specifically, it wasn't speaking right to me, but it was saying all these things, and you're like, oh, I never look at the sky the same, I never look at the cars the same, because you've got this bitter lens, or whether it's bitter or depending on what mood you're in at that point in time. I was in a pretty pissed off mood, so I'm looking at everything, I'm not appreciating it. And what's stopping me appreciate it in that moment? It was just purely perspective. So then,
I think perspective is something that has to be acted upon.
100%.
But this is why time seems to travel fast for people. This is a thing people can think about. You go to your same job and you take the same road and you go to the same coffee place. Your routines make time go faster because your brain has a way of going, we don't need that information. It's not necessary for us. It's not valuable in the processing. So if you want to prove it for yourself, how many times have you driven somewhere and just forgotten the fact that you've been driving the whole time? You're like, whoop, I transported here. Happens to everybody every day.
Yeah.
So there you go. You've lost 20 minutes. So if you want to see how it works differently, next time you go to work, Just take a different route.
Yeah.
Watch how long your day goes that day. You know, we're constantly, this is like a thing I've been saying for years. It's like people are like, I always hear artists and other people being like, I can't wait. I'm like, I just take that word out of my vocabulary. I can wait. Please, life, slow down, because it's going faster and faster and faster. And you have this, you know, not you, but like people have this mentality of, okay, it's Monday. Well, it starts off in a different way. It goes, you know, you're 15 and you go, I can't wait till I'm 18, man. I'm going to drive a car. Or I can't wait till I'm 16. I'm going to drive a car. Then you go, I can't wait till I'm 18. I can go to a bar. Or 21. I'm going to go to a bar. Then you go, oh, I can't wait till I'm 24. I can rent a car. Can't wait till I'm 27. My insurance goes down. Oh, I can't wait. And then there's something that happens and you go, I can really wait to turn 30. I don't want to turn 30. But by that point, you're already in it. Shit's going fast.
Yeah.
And so, and then how it works as a routine, how you get kind of caught in it goes, it's Monday. I can't wait for Friday. And you ever find yourself like trying to race through the week? I can't wait until the day's done. I just want to get through this day. I'm shit and tired. And then you get home and you're like, then the evening's gone. By the time you even had time to process that you're home. You know, your weekend, you couldn't wait to get to Friday, but then you're like, please, Sunday, slow down. I don't want to go back to Monday. And so there's this constant fight and battle of like, I can and can't wait. And people, I think, miss the mark in what's happening in their life. It's like, I can wait. I want Monday to go so slow, because there's going to come a time in my life where I'm going to be at the last few breaths going, shit, man, I wish I had more time. I wish I could have hung on. I wish I could have lived in the mundane. I wish I could have loved the boring. You know, I wish that I could wait in a hospital for 8 hours again. And I wish I could be stuck behind somebody in a long line for shit I don't need. I wish I could be there again, because in those moments are these beautiful things of self-reflection, connection. And like you're saying, like you're in a line for too long. What's around you? Take it in. Accept it. Love on it. I know it sounds a little hocus pocus. Like maybe I've been in California too long, but the reality is like,
no.
But that's just it. It's like, when have you just acknowledged that you're alive? Like, this is crazy. And we don't know if we get to come back. You don't know if this is the first, second, fifth, or 10th time you know, or if you get it again.
I haven't been on social media. You probably noticed this actually, Forrest, but I wasn't on social media for 5 days.
No, what I noticed is that you're on Amy's social media.
So I went off social media just to recharge. But what I noticed, just how, I got back on yesterday, and just how anxious it makes me, because I feel like I have to produce. I feel like I have to do this, that, and the other, when there's no expectation from anyone but myself. And through feeling, or through putting that pressure on myself that I have to do all this, I stopped being present in life. Like the last 5 days were the best 5 days I've had in ages, because every moment that I'd normally be, have my face in my phone, I'm looking around at things that I never noticed, or I'm having conversations I wouldn't have, or I'm thinking to myself in a way that I'd never think. And it's interesting to think about how much these bad boys consume our creativity and the ability to be present and take in what's actually happening in this moment.
Is it that, or is it our inability to schedule? Is it that we're looking for the instant gratification, so we want to be present where the instant gratification is? Because, like what stops anybody, like yourself, like I'm going to get an assistant and have them post for me for 3 days, and I'm going to take 3 days off, and I'll come back in on the Monday. So from Friday through Sunday, I just don't look at my social media, but on Monday I come in and I rejoin the conversation. Or is it like a matter of scheduling content and putting the content up without actively engaging? Because there's this weird, I'm trying to find it myself, where I've taken time off, this past year in different pockets where I haven't posted, just to decompress a bit, because it's a lot. Especially like the consumption on the other end for people is a lot, and then the act of creating is a lot. Trying to find, again, balance, because when you're a creator, you're also a digester of content. And that's it's a double whammy, because you're not just digesting content, you're creating it. So you're like, your brain just feels like it's like being pulled in both directions constantly. And then you lie to yourself in a way to go, oh, I'm on social media so much because I want to know what's happening on social media. So I'm relevant.
Yeah.
Give me 10 seconds. I got to get a plug. for my phone, so I don't die on you.
Plug it in. We'll wrap up in a moment. I want to talk music with you. Not that that's my area.
Yeah,
of expertise.
you can talk whatever you want, man. I'm in for the conversation. Give me a second. I hope you know that I expect your mom to be sending me a pile of Tim Tams for this.
She'll be listening, and she'll be packing them as she's listening.
She will be.
Don't you worry.
I'm particularly fond of your mom. I think she's a brilliant woman.
She is indeed. Definitely is indeed. I hope she's actually packing me some Tim Tams as well, because I can't get them from the shop.
Yeah, it's tough times, man.
COVID. But talk to us about music. So you've put out a heap of incredible songs. One of my still favorites of all time is Love Me. Heaven's Telephone is also another banger. There's plenty of bangers, but your new one, If You Love Her. And the reason why I don't normally talk music with people on the podcast, it's more about a lot of the stuff that we've discussed anyway. But I think a lot of people can gain so much from your music due to how you write it. It's incredibly well written. The lyrics all have meaning behind it. And then obviously, some of your stuff's poems, spoken letters, which are probably poems as well. Correct me.
Spoken words. Yeah.
Yeah, spoken words. So we got some different varieties, which I think, a lot of our audience are men, and being able to listen and understand, especially your story. If you haven't heard a lot of Forest Story, go back to episode 7, and you can hear it's crazy what the experiences that you've had up until this point, and it's only getting crazier now that you're on a different trajectory. But as you were saying, 320,000+ streams. That's a lot in the last 24
hours. On one. That's just Amazon. That doesn't it's over 500,000 a day right now of people listening. It's crazy.
Yeah, that doesn't take into account Spotify or anything.
Doesn't take into account Apple, Spotify, Deezer, Tidal, YouTube. It's over 500,000 a day.
What's this like for you at the moment? Is this the biggest uptake you've had?
Yeah, this and Love Me have been the two biggest. If You Love Her in 3 months right before I got on with you, I just crossed 10 million plays. It's been out since November. So it's wild, man. And it's only going to get crazier.
Might be the new cover photo, because I like that one.
You like that one, or you don't?
No, I do. When it's on my TV screen, I'm like, geez, he's a handsome man.
Thanks, man. I was like, what would Lockie do? How would he do it?
Get back.
No, life is cool. It's crazy. It's look, man. Putting out the last song, it was hard to put out because I wrote it about my ex. I wrote it about her, but I wrote it to the guy who dates her next. I was like, hey, if you're gonna love her, this is how to love her. And it's been crazy to see how many people just want to be loved like that. And I think as men, a lot of times we get caught up or this masculine type of thinking. It's not specific to men. Women do the same thing, but it seems to be a masculine energy.
Yeah.
Not in the sense of a gender, where it's like this fix you attitude and I'm going to do the big thing. And it's what happens is we don't realize that more often than not, we're missing the subtle cues and clues of what is actually necessary. So it's really understanding your partner. You might be with a partner who doesn't need a big house and a big wedding and a picket fence and 3.5 kids and a trip to, Ibiza or Thailand or wherever you are in the world, 4 times a year kind of thing. To them, the best thing is maybe a compliment from you a day that's genuine. Or maybe it is holding their hand or giving them a kiss and really kissing them, or it's those little things that I've forgotten. I'm sure you have too. It's we all have, women and men alike. And so it's been beautiful having people respond to the song and going, man, it feels like that was written about me. Or then, the video I made for it tells the story of a father and a daughter. And it's very interesting to watch people's reactions to that, being my father's passed away and I wish Like, I feel like he's sending me this song. Like, those are the things he's going to say to my partner. You know, it's been, man, it's super crazy. And I haven't really spoken about it too much yet, you know, which I will do in you know, as things kind of take off. But dude, I was homeless in my car last year. I'm signed to a major label. I'm with Atlantic Records and things are going crazy. And then I go through that breakup. And like I said, it toppled me. I had to leave everything I knew. I had a few days to pack what I could pack into a bag. So I grabbed a bag and a broken heart and I landed in LA. And I didn't tell anybody what I was going through. I called my label and I was like, hey, could you get me a car? And I was struggling, man. And I had nowhere to go. I was like, where am I going to go? And, you know, I had buddies that would lend me a couch here and there. And you know what that feels like? You're like, I feel it's hard to take help and a handout. And then like, when does a handout turn into, you know, too much? And so I like was bouncing around from couches and friends' houses to then like sleeping in my car by the beach. You know, and everyone who on the other end of the social media camera, you know, on a phone was like watching me in Malibu, listening to the ocean, not realizing I just slept in my car and like taking basically a bathroom shower at the local grocery store. And it was because I didn't want to lay down roots in California until I knew what was going to happen with my partner. And going through that process of falling apart and writing about it, and then getting to the place where I, you know, come on this month-long trip in Australia to try and see if there's any sense of salvaging my relationship, to put all the energy forward, too little, too late. And being, you know, ending that trip off to grabbing a flight from Brisbane to LA, to then finding that there was no hope in the relationship at the end, and like literally just breaking. And I remember walking into my buddy's place, his studio, and being like, you know, we need to write about this, man, this feeling. Because it was like it was over, it was done. And so I didn't know what I was going to do and how it was going to pan out, like what the move was. And then next thing you know, I'm sitting in the studio with my friend. I have nowhere to go. I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know what's going to happen. I got no sense to rub together. And then I start writing out everything that I felt. And then bam, here's the song. It's taking off like a rocket ship. It's crazy. And I hope that anyone hearing this, that's my version of the story that you can have too. It's just, what do you want to do with the shit that's happening? I get it. It sucks. It hurts. Your life is over. I felt it. We've all felt it. What do you want to do? Like maybe, you know, person B isn't going to be able to write a song about it. I get it. But, and it's not about like, here, I did something through my pain and trauma and I turned it into a massive success and look at me kind of crap. No, it's like, but your pain and whatever you're going through, you're going to go through it. What do you want to do? It's your choice. Do you want to, you know, how, coming full circle back to how we started the conversation, do you want to dwell on the shit that's happening and you want to make that your story? Or do you want to go, this is the shit that happened, here's my story? Life sucks sometimes. People die, people fall apart, you get your heart broken, you break a heart here and there. Sometimes you're the villain, sometimes you're the hero. What do you want to do? What do you want to do with it? You know, like, empower yourself, because the only way through it is through it. And that was like my, like I said, my little mantra that got me through the shit last year. It was like, the only way I'm going to get through these feelings is by feeling them. And lo and behold, here we are. So if you're sitting there and you're not happy with who you are, and maybe you're not loving your partner right, figure it out. Stop sitting there expecting shit to change. Change it. Change what you can, accept what you can't. You know, you're not going to be able to do certain things in life. Some people aren't built. Like, look, I'm telling you the truth. If you come running at Lockie, he's going to knock you over. He's a bull in a china shop and he's a brick shit house, and you're not going to make it through him. Just that's the way life is going to go. And it's probably not going to change anytime soon. But it doesn't mean you can't hurt his feelings with a paper cut.
Different approaches.
Yeah, well, just like, again, using your shit to empower you. It's fuel. It's like, you know, if life isn't going the way you want, what do you want it to do? Well, first, like, I'll say this last thing. Someone said this to me a year ago or so, and I just loved it ever since. You know how someone's like, just life isn't working for them, and they're like, I've tried everything. If you really want to screw that person up, if you want to stop them dead in their tracks, ask them this. Okay, what's the top 100 things you tried? Yeah. Write them down.
Stuck at 3. And
they're going to go, well, maybe, you know, okay, I get it. you were being a little hyperbolic, I think is the word. You're hyperbolizing. Sure. Write down the 50 things you tried. They're not going to be able to. Write down the 20 things. They're still not going to. Write down the 10. They'll probably be able to write down 1 to maybe 3 things they tried. And the rest is going to be a load of shit they're feeding you for you to believe that they tried stuff. And that's the thing about being a human and being a person. You don't try very much stuff. We all don't. Be honest with it. If you want to empower yourself to change, make a little bit of a plan and try and change it. And be honest with it. If your relationship sucks, it's going to take more than 3 attempts. Try and figure it out. It might take an actual 100 attempts. And if you really genuinely care about something, you'll make those attempts. But don't keep breaking your brain and your soul over doing the same shit, expecting it to change. It's not going to change. And then in the same breath, don't expect that of other people. I think it was Einstein that said it. If you judge a fish by its ability to fly, you'll always be disappointed.
Yeah.
Ain't that the truth?
Or is that Dr. Seuss?
It may have been Dr. Seuss. Either way, it sounds great.
Yeah. I feel like that's a Dr. Seuss kind of thing, but it could be wrong. The only reason why I say that is I watched The Grinch the other night, so he's fresh on my mind.
That's it. So I think you put all of that stuff and you package it in together and you go, look at your partner, love on them. They're not going to look the same as the first thing. That's the way instant gratification works.
Well, the same with yourself.
Everything in life is a hook. It's meant to catch you.
Yeah.
That's it. Remember that
thing with yourself. Like, if you can't love yourself, what are you doing to improve that? Are you going to sit there and play victim forever and sit in the shit for longer than you need to? Or are you going to start working out what you need to do? Try different things.
That's it, man.
There's no wrong or right. And this is the thing. We're all so unique and individual that what works for me or what works for you, Forrest, mightn't work for the person next to us. And it may be the simplest thing. It may be the most extravagant thing that has to happen for you to feel that. But whatever the fuck it is, once you understand it, play to it. It's like when people who want happiness do more of what makes you happy. And what makes you happy right now may not make you happy in 4 years. That's fine. Accept it, acknowledge it, and move with it. It doesn't have to be complicated. We don't have to hang on to things longer than we need to.
I think if you attach to the reason why, just to kind of reconfigure what you just said, because I think that's brilliant. I think, to do what makes you happy. The only caveat to that is that sometimes doing what makes you happy can make you unhappy. And what I think is important to look at through that lens is find out the reason why you're doing what you're doing, because the things that will bring you happiness usually suck to do. And that's the truth of it. If you think that, you're going to be happy working in a gym, you've never been to a gym. Happiness is the result of all the work. Happiness is the result of being out of breath, dying, feeling like, why the hell am I doing this? And you need that reason why to empower it, because the thing about being human, again, I'm no psychologist, but humans have an innate ability to avoid discomfort. And discomfort usually yields happiness. And it sounds contradictory, but comfort usually yields the opposite. It's easy to be comfortable and eat comfort foods and live comfortably, but it usually doesn't yield happiness in the sense of being healthy and and fit, whatever that means to you, and having the ability to navigate life. It's comfortable to spend all your money. It's not comfortable to save all your money. It's very uncomfortable once you've spent all your money. So it's just this interesting thing of balancing the risk and the rewards, so that, again, coming back full circle, find your why. It will always push you through the shit. And I can tell you that it would have been a lot easier. I was thinking about this the other day. I was talking to my girlfriend. I was like, man, it would have been so much easier just to quit music and drive back home to Canada and just go get a job. Why am I suffering for this art? Like, why did I live in my car and live on a couch? Like, why did I do that? And that discomfort has yielded something different for me. And the reason why I did it was because I don't wake up as an artist going, I want to be famous. It's like, I'm doing it because I wake up, and if I don't work these sounds or feelings out of my mind, I feel like I'm dying. I genuinely feel that. And I've worked jobs and I've made good money, and I felt like I was dying. it just wasn't for me. I don't know why I'm built this way. I respect the people who can go and, pick up garbage all day long. I think those people are heroes. And I respect the cashiers right down to the people that work the bank kiosk, to the people that drive the Uber. I love that those people feel like that's what they want to do. And I think that if you're passionate about what you do, fucking all the power to you, man. I love you for that. Please be passionate about whatever you're doing, because that will yield happiness, and you'll be able to work through the discomfort of all the shit that comes with what you're doing.
Fuck yeah.
Like that's how I feel. I love that someone's like, you know what? I want to be a doctor and work 36 hours without any sleep, cutting people's bodies open while they die on a table or live. Like, that sucks. That doesn't sound fun at all to me. I have no why in there. I couldn't do it. And I'm like, how do you get through that and show back up the next day after losing somebody that you've tried to save? That's like, damn.
Yeah, mind blowing.
Like, damn, how did you do that? So anyway, I think it just comes down to that. Find your why, because you'll always be able to put happiness aside temporarily to be uncomfortable to get to that level of happiness.
The long term.
I think that's the trick of it all, man.
100%.
But it will hit me up in 2 years and we'll find out if I still believe that. But right now I do.
Man, we'll be having you on every 2 years for the rest of your life. It's got to happen. I might change the name of the show to The Man That Interviewed Forrest Every 2 years. I'll think of a better name than that. Mate.
The show's going to be like, Forrest is the man.
Yeah, Forrest is the man, period.
This episode is called The Man That Did.
Mate, it's funny. We had our awards night the other night. Oh, it wasn't actually an award. It was like a Christmas party. But then we released The Man That Did, which was for the bloke who's implemented, shown up, and really invested in himself and his relation, like put into play everything that we practice and preach over at The Man That Can, which is essentially taking ownership for your life and fixing things that are broken. And we called it The Man That Did. We had 2 winners this year because there was 2 blokes who had done incredibly great things which were inspiring. So The Man That Did, mate, you can jump on that bandwagon for sure.
I must have been the fact that I'm Canadian. I wasn't invited to the Australian edition. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, you would have been 100%. It's just the pigeon mail's a bit slow at the moment. Mate, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you? Like, obviously, I'll put
at Forrest Blakk. Just look up Forrest Blakk, and I'll trust you to put FOREST BLAKK.
Perfect.
You can find me everywhere, or just go and talk to your Amazon player and be like, "Hey, Alexa," or just play "If You Love Her" by Forrest Blakk. You just watch that; that'll go off.
Just yeah. And how can we support you?
I mean, look, you can find me on socials and be part of my world if you so please, if you like it. I think as being an artist in this time, sharing, share what I do if you like it. If it touches you, if what I do touches you in any way, shape, or form, then please tell people about it. I think that's the only thing, like there's no charity for me. There's that's what it is, and if you don't feel so inclined to do that for me, maybe do it for somebody else. It goes a long way, like that word of mouth. That's how it does it, and then if you don't feel like supporting an artist in that way, here's the one thing I will ask you to do. Think of somebody you haven't talked to in a while and talk to them. And it's interesting to do this around Christmas time. I remember being a kid and end up being out of my house on Christmas Eve, and it sucked, man. I was just a kid, and my dad was in jail, and my mom couldn't take care of us, and it was just brutal. And I remember walking down the street, and it was Christmas Eve, and I'm looking into people's houses and going, man, it's so perfect. Like, Christmas is this very unique feeling for me because it's supposed to be this time where everyone's charitable and giving. It's the time I felt the loneliest because people are charitable and giving within their circles. You're excluded from the circle. And I can't tell you the pain and feelings that I had from that. And so to empower other people to maybe look at it through that lens for a second, something that I've done, and I don't say this with any ego or anything like that, and also no false humility. I've taken the last 4 Christmases and I've taken the opportunity to call as many fans that will give me their number. And I call them. I genuinely call them. This Christmas, it took me like over 20 hours of steady calling to call the people that put their numbers up. and just call in and say, hey, Merry Christmas from me, because it doesn't happen. People don't get that. How impactful that is for other people, especially if they're like me. It at the end of the day, people just want to be seen. It's my whole why. That's my why, what I do. And if I can empower other people through this lens to do the same, if you feel like that's part of your reason why and you want to make people visible, you don't have to do it in a grandiose way. Sometimes just checking in on somebody, letting them know that you're there, letting them know that you see them in whatever capacity you see them. That's all I'm asking. That's how you can support me. You can let me know that you see me and empower me so that I can turn the big lens on as many people as I can. And if you don't feel like that's part of your journey, and I can empower you to put the lens on somebody else, do that. And if that's not your journey as well, then find your reason why and find what you feel you can do in that moment and support whomever, however you can. That's all I ask. So that's what you can do for me. Merry Christmas.
Mate, thank you so much. I truly appreciate your time, and I would love to just do like a Joe Rogan special where we speak for like 5 hours. I think that'd be pretty.
Yeah, we'll do the Man That Can Marathon. Sounds great.
Hosted by Forrest Blakk.
Yeah.